And how about all this finger pointing over who's to blame for budget troubles? This week, White House officials canceled all tours of what is the People's House, the White House, in what they say is a cost-cutting move. But that decision's leaving many Americans wondering just how well the government is really spending their tax dollars. Joining us now, Ford O'Connell, the chairman of the Civic Forum IPAC, or PAC rather, and former outreach director for John McCain for president. Julie Roginsky here with us also, Fox News contributor and former political advisor to Democratic Senator Frank Lautenberg of New Jersey. And welcome to both of you.
Hi, Jamie.
Nice to see you.
Thank you for having us, Jamie.
Oh, Ford, it's a pleasure. Let's start with you, since you're so cheery and enthusiastic. When you look at these cuts, you know, we talk about the White House tours. That was a big one this week, obviously, and some cuts seem to be necessary. Are we on the right track?
No, we're not on the right track. And the bottom line is our debt is $16.5 trillion, and we're not going to get there until both sides stop demonizing each other. The Democrats have to admit that we have a spending problem. And if we don't get the spending problem under control, essentially we're not going to have economic growth and we're going to have a weaker dollar. On the other hand, in an effort to be bipartisan today, because I'm wearing my blue tie, I'm going to tell you that if we're actually going to get there and balance the budget, Republicans are going to have to give in a little bit with respect to revenue. Revenue is likely to increase if we are actually to tackle this problem.
Julie, the president, in a different move in the second term than in the first term, did reach across, did dine, did chat, did talk, and has even more plans, as Eric mentioned, to meet with GOP members and try to come up with a resolution. Of all the cuts, are there any that are so disturbing to you that you hope they're at the top of the list of figuring out how we can reallocate money?
Yeah, and actually in a spirit of bipartisanship, I'm wearing my red dress today. So Ford and I actually got together and planned this apparently this morning. But yes, I mean, look, I feel bad for the kids that wanted to go visit the White House and made plans to do that. But they'll survive. What I'm concerned about are things like the WIC program, which funds money for women and children who are nutritional programs for women and children who otherwise couldn't afford them. And this sequester is going to cut, I think, something up to 750,000 people from that program. These are little babies that depend on things like formula to survive. You know, White House tours, yeah, it's a bummer, but this is life and death. And that to me is a much bigger issue. And I really hope we can come to some sort of accommodation, because this is something that I think is really unconscionable.
Julie, let me say this. The cutting the White House tours was a little bit of a petty move, because we know what's going on here. This is jockeying back and forth. The problem with the sequester is that it disproportionately targets programs. They're not the drivers of our federal debt. But I think the Republicans decided to kick in the sequester because essentially Democrats don't want to modernize entitlements. Entitlements are 62% of our federal spending. And with 10,000 people turning 65 every day, it's ballooning by the hour. It's going to get to a point that we're going to become an assisted living, a government that's an assisted living program with a military, until we got to gut the military. We really, both sides, have to be honest about what's driving the debt and how we can modernize those entitlements moving forward, because if we don't, we're going to weaken the value of the dollar. We're not going to have economic growth, and this means jobs. And the problem is it's very hard for the American public to see that.
Julie, weigh in on entitlements, and then I have to show you three expenses that caught us our eye in particular, and ask you, Ford knows where I'm going with that. Go ahead, Julie.
Well,
what do you think?
Ford is absolutely right. The sequester does not address what the real crisis here is, the debt crisis, and that is entitlements. It does. So it's arbitrary, it's cruel, and it doesn't really affect the problem. Ford is absolutely right about that. But the larger issue to me is Obama did propose a plan to get rid of the sequester that essentially would have addressed entitlement reform. It would have cut for Medicare, it would have cut for Medicaid. So he is addressing those issues. Unfortunately, the Republicans did not want to take him up on it.
Okay, let me stop you there. I got to squeeze this in. Okay. You know how it is. We're up against a hard break. Hey, guys, what do you think of these? Let's put up the full screens that we have of some of the expenses and costs. Calligraphy charges for the White House, $277,000. Pig swine research. Since yesterday, I'm trying to figure out exactly what we can learn from that. Nice shot, guys, in the control room. And then there's dog grooming, funding dog specialty shampoo products. My goodness, I use generic. Guys, $500,000? Really?
Hey, I love my dog enough where I think I've spent that kind of money on his grooming alone, so I don't know why the government's spending that kind of money. But
folks are hungry for it?
Waste, fraud, and abuse is nothing new. And if the American public, if politicians would talk about this, the American public would be more in tune. They have no idea. But I'm going to tell you something. If we put them all out there constantly, everybody would go crazy. You also forgot the government junkets last year that were $340 million that we really don't know what happened there either. So waste, fraud, and abuse is part of of this sort of deficit reduction. And if we don't get to that, guess what? This is going to continue. And I hate to say kicking the can down the road, but we may be kicking America to its grave.
But you know what, you guys, you made the effort. Red on this side, blue on this side. I will get the memo next time and wear white. Meantime, thanks so much. I hope that our elected officials can do the same. Great to see both of you.
Julie,
Ford,
thank you, Jamie.
Take care. Okay, see you next time.
Bye.